Hey there, welcome back to the AI Equation podcast, where we explore the intricate world of artificial intelligence and its impact on our lives. I'm your co host, Alex, and today we're diving into a specific topic that's both critical but also complicated. And we're talking about ethics of AI or ethics in AI. Listen, we are living through a time where innovation is skyrocketing. It's so hard to keep up with the changes of these companies that are making most of the big strides in artificial intelligence, right? IBM, Microsoft, OpenAI, Google, Amazon, Anthropic, and many, many others, right? But it makes it really difficult for you to put together strategies that will impact your business, your operations, your staff, your customers, when what you implement today might already be updated within, one quarter, sometimes even a month. I know for sure that myself and many others that we are staying in touch with that are at the forefront of everything happening in AI, every time you make an update to the application, and then the big systems like your open AIs, right? The large language models, as they're referred to, every time they make updates, then you're having to make changes along with that. So it makes it really hard to create products, which is why we've had some guests here on the podcast with products like certain apps, plugins, and GPTs, where they've taken an approach that is more what would I say, agnostic, that doesn't depend just on OpenAI or Anthropic or Google's Gemini. You're trying to have a strategy that is multifaceted, whether we're talking, your cloud servers, whether we're talking the content you create, and there's so many different types of content, managing employees, and then gets a little bit more complicated when we start to talk about the different industries as well. And we're going to talk about that today. But the questions about who is responsible for AI use, we are at the point where we don't know. Now, the U.S. Biden administration, they have done lots of things to make it look like they're on top of it. But let's face it, they're not on top of it, and it's not a political thing, right or left. If we look at everyone is behind, right? Because we are just following along as the big tech companies make their changes. We, the public, the users and businesses, we want to use it. Recently, they had a study. They interviewed and polled more than 10,000 businesses around the world, and 67% of business owners, small business specifically, said that they are using AI on a regular basis to accomplish different tasks, right? And I think that number is high, because when I talk to most especially small business owners, they're using it, but not on a regular basis, right? They've maybe played with it a little bit, but that question of ethics, who's going to be responsible for it? There are all these alliances that we've talked about here on the podcast, alliances that have been formed between multiple companies in the industry. However, we know that we cannot trust those same companies to regulate themselves. We know that whether it's social media or the internet at large, self-regulation has not worked. They take your data, they monetize it, and the government does nothing about it. I do think that Europe is ahead of us ahead of North America in general in that case, but it's something that we have to watch for and figure out, like, what are the ethics? How are you going to use it? You want to use AI without crossing ethical boundaries, right? So let's go ahead and unpack that. So the first thing I want to talk about is really the industries, because I'm working every day with companies across many industries in the context of content and marketing. And so when I'm doing content and marketing, no doubt there are some great tools out there. There are thousands of great tools. Obviously, our favorite tool is Article Factory, which allows you to create blog posts and copy and content for your website at scale, right, in volume, and then be able to create images with it. So that is definitely no doubt one of my favorite tools. But of course, Chat GPT and many others out there are being powered by the same 4 or 5 LLMs, right? So, but different industries. You think about AI's role in diagnosing diseases. That's amazing. They're predicting outbreaks and personalizing patient care. This is revolutionary, and I know that even at the local level, my medical provider, they had announced late last year that they were implementing AI in patient care, from like the first touch point, from when you call to all the way through the post clinical visit. Is really amazing what they're doing, and it automates that process for them, so it gives you a better gives you much better results. Like, for example, the notes that the doctor will take when the doctor is sitting with you, they just simply put that into the CRM, and the CRM will go deeper into it and create expanded notes about what the talking points were. So really interesting. But I think the other side of that, when we're talking about the ethical concerns, is it raises questions about patient privacy, consent, and then, of course, the accuracy of AI driven content like that, especially when we're talking about medical things, right? Doctors for years have, in working with different healthcare providers, they will, I wouldn't say complain, but talk about the fact that patients come in and will say, "Hey, I Googled this," so they call that Doctor Google, right? As if like Google is going to solve your healthcare problems. It's not, and I fear that there's a little bit of that happening with AI at this point as well. So that's, to me, I think patient privacy is the most important one. Now, another industry that I work with is finance. So from algorithmic trading to fraud detection, AI is definitely reshaping fintech. And the ethical considerations include the fairness of an AI algorithm, transparency, and the potential for systematic risks, right? And I've already seen this with some cryptocurrency trading exchanges. Now, they're trying not to publicize it. Remember, there's going to be this period that we are seeing right now in the world of business where all of the companies using these LLMs, these AI systems, they're not going to announce it to the world often that they are integrating it within their cloud, within their application, right? And the reason they're not going to is because it's too risky. So they want to try it. So hopefully, if your company is in an industry like healthcare or finance, you're going to test things first in a beta environment. And even with something that's not as dangerous, like creating content for the web, there should always be a human element at the beginning and at the end. And we've talked about that here. I mean, creating the guidelines and the guardrails so that you don't get in trouble and you don't cross that ethical line is super important. Now, one area that I think from an ethical standpoint is really complicated is education. So, in talking with college professors and talking to students over the past year, I would say it's really apparent to us that while on one side, applications like Khan Academy is doing a fantastic job with their chatbots, Conmigo, where you can really get personalized learning, and for teachers you can automate administrative tasks, right? Like, for example, correcting homework and papers. However, it like the healthcare industry, like the finance industry, you have issues with data privacy. And then, most importantly, I think the bias in educational content. We're seeing that with, books being banned in states like Florida and Texas here in the US. And so, while it's good that we are getting more opportunities, like, for example, tutoring for all, so democratization of education for everyone, equal access to AI resources is not there yet for all students. And that's going to be important because that really truly depends on connectivity and the internet, right? Now, the last industry that I would talk about here is the government and the elections. Being that here in the United States, we are in an election year, the AI's application in public services and election processes can improve efficiency. They're not really being used at large at this point. If you think about like at the front end with voting machines, and I do know this because I have actually volunteered for years during the elections and actually operated these machines called the EVID, right, at my local county here with the elections board. But you know, for me, when I think about elections, I'm thinking more about the content, right? Manipulation of public opinion and the integrity of the democratic process. And we know that that has been put to the really challenge here. And you have the deep fakes and a lot of stuff that is you as the user or the business, you have to look at things twice and understand where the source came from. And if the source actually created the content using AI, they should tell you up front that it's being created with AI. And of course, media companies who are also doing content creation, um, they I think have a big weight on their shoulder. The ethical considerations and the transparency, like disclosing was this article created with artificial intelligence or not. This is going to be important because otherwise, there's no way to combat misinformation. So they have to take the lead on that because for user generated content, UGC, so, if you allow people to go on your feed, let's say a YouTube channel or a forum on your media channel and give opinions that seem like they're fact, but in fact, they're misinformation, then that's going to be a problem. And then I think for media companies, we're seeing the lawsuits coming through, suing OpenAI in a lot of cases because of copyright laws, right? So we even saw that with Twitter and others that are suing OpenAI. So the last piece of it, it's really creating guidelines for the students. That was the other flip side of education, where I think that there's a lot of great things happening there. But it's crucial that if you are in education, in whether it's higher education or K through 12, it is crucial that you establish guidelines that encourage ethical AI use among your students. It's encouraging the ethical use because they're going to use the applications to help them accomplish their work, right? It's just a matter of you telling them that these are the guidelines and you must follow it. Otherwise, it can blow up in your face. So fostering a critical thinking mindset to me is super important. A lot of things that you can do manually in the classroom, like design thinking as a framework, can really help you. Emphasizing the importance of privacy and consent. I mean, with privacy, if you just put out all your information, how do you know that these companies are going to hold it in a safe place? We don't, right? So you have to be careful what you put out there. And so for, I think, educators, it's teaching the ethical implications of AI technologies, right? So again, as we wrap up today's discussion here on AI ethics, I think it is clear for us that we've been watching for years. It's clear that the journey towards ethical AI is in its infancy and it is complex. And the government and big tech, they do not have a handle on it. So it is important that each industry that faces their own unique challenges, it's important that you create your own ethical guidelines, right? Because the landscape is evolving, and it's important also for you to stay informed. We had a guest here, Bill Wong, a few months back, and Bill really talked about the importance of having an AI strategy. So aside from everything that you do for your business, having an AI strategy is important. And within that, you're going to talk about those ethical guidelines. And perhaps you use a ChatGPT or AI to have that discussion with the chatbot about what are the implications for ethics, right? And whether you're a professional in the field, a student, or simply an interested listener, I encourage you to continue exploring these issues and contributing to the conversation. Together, we can ensure that AI serves humanity in a responsible and equitable way. Thanks for joining me today on the AI Equation podcast. I will see you on the next episode.